Well,
We'll
unless
be
you
right.
do that with someone else. Okay, I'll probably have to.
No,
I'll
no,
probably
no,
have to cut that out. I'll probably have to cut that out.
no.
Can't be saying that.
I want
Okay,
to have
cool.
Ben.
3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Words from the Nerds podcast. I am Aiden, joined as always by my lovely co-host Charlie. It's Cubson, Charles Jacobson, whatever you want to call him. He's here in the flesh, and we are joined by Benjamin. I'll let all of them say their piece in a little bit, but we got a special guest, NLE Memish. Memish, how
Yes,
are you doing,
sir.
bro?
Hello, I'm good today. I'm very good. I
There
mean,
we
it's like
go.
midnight for me, but I'm so happy. I'm awake. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
we begged him to stay up for this. We begged him to
Yeah,
stay up.
yeah. We had to get him on this episode. But yes, Charlie, Ben, how are y'all doing today?
I'll let the other guests go first, I
Other
guess.
guest. Thank you, Charlie. I hope you enjoy when you leave this podcast for you know who. Start your own podcast.
Oh.
Then you'll be a guest. Yeah. No. Little inside joke. Nah, I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here. I feel like it's been a while since we've done one of these episodes. I don't know which episode was the last one I was on.
A She-Hulk episode, I
Was it a
believe.
She-Hulk episode?
Mhm.
Okay, because you guys didn't invite me for Black Adam. I understand.
Yeah.
It's
I
okay.
don't think that's how that played out in my memory. But that's
That's what I remember. But we're here now. I am very
Yeah.
excited to talk about Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
that's good to hear. That's
Charlie.
good to hear, Benjamin. I am fantastic today. I have very glowing things to say about this film and some arguments to be made, and maybe not with you guys, but against some things that other people have said. But
Yeah.
I am very excited to make all of those arguments and all of those happy statements, as well as some sad ones, because this movie is, um,
Very
it's a
touching.
tearjerker.
Yeah.
Tearjerker.
Wakanda Forever. We are talking about Wakanda Forever. 2022 release, obviously the sequel to the fifth highest grossing movie of all time. In some insane numbers that Black Panther 2018 put up. Currently has an 84% audience, 84% critic score, and a 95% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 7.4 IMDb. The people of Wakanda fight to protect their home from in intervening world powers as they mourn the death of King T'Challa and the real life death of Chadwick Boseman. Um, I guess we'll go around and give our short summary reviews of the movie, how we felt, the gist of it, your number grade, whatever letter grade, whatever you please, and then we'll get into the movie. So why don't we start off with Charlie?
I really, really, really enjoyed this movie. It took a little bit of time to sit with it and think about I'm getting right off the bat with the comparing, but it took me a little bit of time to decide if I like this one or the first one more. I think I'm landing on the first one. I like the first one a bit more. This one is still absolutely fantastic in everything that it does. Love the how compelling the first one was, both villain wise, storyline wise, and everything that it was trying to accomplish there. But this one was all across the board really, really well done, and I have very little complaints with a lot of it. I mean, there was some shoddy CGI, which you could say about almost any MCU movie. I don't really hold that against it. I mean, there's a lot of other films, not even just MCU movies, that have some sort of things like that. I thought the pacing during Act 2 was a little bit slow for me. Like, it kind of took a while to get there. But I mean, it didn't take me too much out of it because it still ramped right back up towards the end there to the direction I was hoping it would go. And overall, I'd probably give it about a 8.5 out of 10. I think I would say it's really well done. It's just everything with, I think Killmonger really just edges it out for me for making the first one just that much better for me. I like Namor, don't get me wrong, but just Killmonger and everything that how much they focused on him and what he wanted in the world. Not that they didn't do that with Namor, but just, I don't know. It seemed a lot more compelling to me. So yeah, this movie was great, and I've seen it twice, and I kind of want to see it a third time already. So
Yeah, also real quick, we'll just keep it spoiler free for I don't know, for a little bit until we run out of things to say to where we need to get into spoilers. So all right, cool. Ben?
Yeah, I really like the movie. I think after how disappointing Love and Thunder and Multiverse of Madness were, at least for me personally, I was kind of expecting this to just blow them out of the water. And I expected it to do so also because of its runtime, which I know is like a weird thing to bring up, but it's like the second longest Marvel movie. I forget, I think it was like 2 hours and 43 minutes long, but it uses its runtime so well, especially with fleshing out our villain. Like, I really loved Namor in this movie, and I wish that Thor Love and Thunder had more time to flesh out Gore the God Butcher, because Christian Bale was great, but he was just not given enough to do in that movie to really flesh out his character. And I also have been thinking about the comparison between the first film and this movie. And I also think that I prefer the first one just a little bit more. It has gone back and forth in my mind. And honestly, for me, I've gone more back and forth on Namor versus Killmonger, which villain I prefer as well, because I think that's been two things that a lot of people have been talking about.
Yeah.
But I think the best part about like all of the discussion that I've seen is that regardless of if you like slightly prefer one or the other, they at least did like everything that they needed to for the sequel, and everybody thinks that it was effective in continuing the legacy of Chadwick Boseman, continuing the storyline. And I think it offered like a lot more with some of the other characters that were introduced in the movie. And it felt like such a unique Marvel experience compared to recent years. Like I felt a different way watching Wakanda Forever than I did watching Love and Thunder and Multiverse of Madness. Somebody described it as like, it feels like they were back in time watching some of those older classic Marvel movies where they used to all feel so important and iconic, whereas nowadays we just get so much that it's hard to feel that way sometimes. For me, this brought back some of that excitement and those feelings for the MCU, which I thought was great. So I really like this movie. My score that I gave it was an 81 out of 100. Charlie, if you're gonna, I'm just saying, you calling me out for having my scores out of 100, but yeah, an 81 out of 100, which the first Black Panther movie I gave an 82 out of 100. So they're like so close in my mind. In my Marvel ranking, it's literally right below the first Black Panther film. So I really did like this movie. I think it did everything that it needed to and more. I'm happy. I'm very pleased with what they were able to do with this film. It had a lot riding on its back, and I think it definitely delivered.
Okay. Mimish?
Finally,
I
getting
mean,
some real opinions.
I loved the movie. I absolutely loved it. Like, I think from the first film when I watched it, I was contemplating if it was better than the first one. Then I had it for a second watch to deeply look at the understanding, the plot, the visual. I think the cinematography is amazing compared to the first film. It's really different. Also, the visual effects was obviously, I think, in my opinion, way better than the first one, especially the final fight in the first Black Panther. Like, it looked like an Xbox game. Like, it didn't look that well. But if you look at a film, it brought out everything that you wanted. Like, it make you cry. It make you laugh. Like, M'Baku was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
You'd be scared. Like, I was scared of the Atlanteans. Are they Atlanteans?
Yeah.
Would they be called?
I think
I was scared
are they
of them.
the Talokans or
Talokans.
Isn't
I don't
that
know
the
how you
city,
say it.
though?
Yeah, just Talokans. I don't know how you say it.
I guess, yeah, we'll go with
Yeah, I
it.
don't know. Yeah, the Talokans, I was scared of them. Like, in the movie, like, they were scary. And yeah, everything you want in a film, I think I liked it. So I've made the decision in my head that it's better than the first one. And it's unpopular, but I prefer it to the first Black Panther because I think the first Black Panther, the way it out, is the best origin MCU film, Black Panther. It's I think it's the best origin for in the MCU and movies wise, because I don't want to mention TV shows. That's top. And movies wise. The sequel, it's an upgrade. I think it's a really big upgrade. And I gave it an 8.9 out of 10. I think it's really, really good. It's so close to the 9, but I think it's a very good film.
Yeah, I'd have to agree on the fact that I think I prefer this to the first movie, and not by a lot. Like Ben, you said it's right above the original Black Panther. In my MCU ranking, I have Black Panther Homecoming, and then Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So it's very close for me as well. I gave this movie an 8.4 out of 10. Um, I don't know. I have a lot more flaws with the first movie than I do with this movie. And not to say that there is even a lot of flaws with the first movie. It's just I can find more complaints with Black Panther than I can with Wakanda Forever. I think I told my girlfriend's brother-in-law after this. I said, all things considered, this might be one of the most impressive Marvel movies in the MCU. Like you put, you have your Guardians of the Galaxy, you have your Infinity War and your Endgame, but everything that Ryan Coogler had to juggle and deal with for this movie, for it to still even be on par with the first one, for it to still even be on par with all the other MCU movies in the higher tier, is incredible. It's so impressive to me because I'm not gonna lie. When I first heard that they were doing the Black Panther 2 or after the Chadwick's death, I thought this movie was gonna be horrible. I did not think it was gonna be good at all. I thought he had so much to juggle, and I was surprised that they were even still doing a sequel. And up until we started getting trailers and everything, I was kind of like, okay, this Ryan Coogler is just him. Ryan Coogler is him. He got that dog in him, and he's gonna come out here and prove it. And so, watching the movie, I was leaning towards a nine, an 8.5 to a 9, all movie. Like I did not feel the runtime at all. I thought the pacing was great. It does slow down in the second act, and then it kind of picks up a little bit too much in the third act. Once we got to that the final fight scene with minor spoilers with the Wakandans and the Talokans, that's kind of what brought it down for me. But really, don't have too much complaints other than that, and other than some of the dodgy stuff in the middle. So I'm very high on this movie, 8.4 out of 10. It's sitting very pretty on my MCU um, list, my favorite MCU, or all my MCU movies ranked. I can't remember what number, but I do prefer this to the first one. And honestly, I think I prefer Namor as a villain to Killmonger. I feel like I just connected with Namor a lot more, and I think that first scene where we get introduced to the Talokans on the boat was one of the coolest things I have ever seen in an MCU movie. It had me shaking. My mouth was dropped. I was like, dude, this music is insane. Like it was so eerie, so great. And then, obviously that Namor introduction was done perfectly. So I don't know. I feel like I said this in a video. We talk a lot about the copies of MCU heroes being villains. Like in the first Iron Man movie, you have Obadiah Stane, who's basically like the copy of Iron Man, and then Killmonger, I feel like, is kind of a copy of T'Challa in a way. And I also said I feel like Namor and Killmonger kind of also had, somewhat the same motivations, where Killmonger's like, hey, we need to protect our people. This is how far I'll go. And Namor is like, hey, we need to protect our people and your people. This is how far we should go. And every single time it's a little bit too far. Like, you want to start a war, or you want to arm your people with weapons of mass destruction. So in a way they're similar. I think Namor kind of worked for me a little bit more. It was more like two kings just going at it, Black Panther and Namor, um, going at it like just nation against nation, army against army, word for word, bar for bar. And I think that was just like a lot more appealing to me than Killmonger's motivation. So, me personally, I think I slightly prefer Wakanda Forever. I am excited to revisit it in the future, and maybe watch both movies back to back, um, and see how I feel then. But as of right now, my final thoughts are just Ryan Coogler is him, dude, and this is by far one of the most impressive Marvel movies to date. All things considered, and what he had to deal with. So that's kind of where I sit.
I don't disagree with you. I just look at Killmonger's motivations as a bit deeper than just that.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was a kid who was not, obviously he was wronged by Wakanda originally by them killing his dad, right? But then he had to grow up as a underprivileged black kid in a underdeveloped neighborhood, being as he said oppressed his entire life, and so he did what most young broke poor kids have to do at that age with not many options. He joined the military and involved his whole life with that, and then at some point along the way decided that Wakanda is screwed up for not helping kids like him or
Yeah.
people like him all around the world, and so he wants to go after Wakanda to not only get revenge but also then accomplish what he wants to accomplish later, which I think, again, you're right. Like they essentially want to burn the world together, not together, but both of them, Namor and Killmonger, want to do that. But I just I don't know if I didn't connect with Namor's reasoning as much as Killmonger's, because I did have sympathy for him, like with his mother and everything, but I guess I just didn't quite get the driving force there as much as I did with Killmonger. I know he hasn't really. He had one experience with the surface world and he hated it after that. Namor did. And I don't know if we're going to start diving into spoilers yet, so I'll still touch around that sort of thing. But just Killmonger's. I don't know if it was just more clear cut for me, and maybe that's why it worked a little bit more. But just everything down to like how. I will say this one made me cry and made me probably feel more than, and I guess that's what you want to do with art. You want to feel things. This one did probably make me feel more than the first one did, but I don't know, just the way it was so well written, the first one, I think. And like, no, obviously it wasn't like masterful or anything like that, but it was really, really well done. And not that this one wasn't, but just, I don't know if I failed to understand it as much. I don't know.
Yeah. Ben, you want to chirp in? I see you eager.
Yeah, I'm not eager, but the more that I've thought about it, the more that I've realized just how similar Namor and Killmonger are just as villains. Because really, Killmonger in the first Black Panther movie, he becomes the king of Wakanda. And the conflict, a lot of the main conflict of him as a villain is when he becomes king. And they have to overthrow him as king of Wakanda. And similarly, Namor obviously is the king of his own nation. And so a lot of how they kind of their mannerisms toward the people of Wakanda is very similar. Like Killmonger didn't really want hostility until it seemed necessary. And same thing with Namor. Like if he could have just peacefully resolved things with Wakanda, he wasn't going to get violent. And same thing with Killmonger. He just wanted them to comply with exactly what he wanted. It's just that in both instances, they took it a step too far. And they seemed reasonable for a period of time. And then they just, they said that one little thing that just pushed it too far. And in the case of Wakanda Forever, it was basically like we need to, protect our nations. And then the step too far is let's burn the world together. That's where it goes from like you can understand the reasoning and the compassion for his nation and the nation of Wakanda, but then he's just got that little bit of that extra step further that just pushes him to the point where you understand that, our heroes and for the good guys to win, they can't comply with that. So I honestly think that the two villains are very similar. I agree with Charlie that the motivation of Killmonger I find a little more appealing as well, just because he was Wakandan and the effect that had on him and his life building up to when he went back to Wakanda. Whereas with Namor, I mean, he had no involvement with Wakanda before this movie. It's a very new thing, like just started happening. So I think there's a bit more backstory with Killmonger. So yeah, I definitely go back and forth because for me, having Killmonger be kind of similar to Black Panther, like the copy your villain, make him evil to make your villain, or copy the hero, make him evil to make your villain, that kind of cliche of superhero movies, that's also a factor with Killmonger. So it's hard. I have so far leaned towards Namor, but I think they're both amazing villains because you like completely understand their motive, their passion. You understand like why they're doing what they're doing. They both just take it a step too far. So honestly, the comparison makes sense because they are so similar. It's just that Killmonger ended up becoming the king of Wakanda, whereas Namor was the king of his own nation.
Yeah. So I guess my appeal with Namor, I just I just love the way they set it up. I love the way they set up the conflict. It's just like, hey, I came in contact with the surface world a while back, didn't go so great. I built this beautiful underwater city of Talokan, and these people are looking for your stuff. Your stuff is in my territory. They're looking for your stuff, which is bothering us. Get them up out of here, or find me the person who's responsible, and I'll get them up out of here. And it goes back to, it's just like those motives. You're going a little bit too far, and that's what makes you perfect. You're not like, I want to watch the world burn. You're more of like a, hey, I have good intentions. It's just how you go about it. And when he finally does come in contact with Wakanda and stuff, and he's like, well, look at my city. Look at, this is why I'm so hell bent on this. Like, you're telling me that you wouldn't go to war to protect your nation as well. You wouldn't go to war to protect your people as well. And like, in a way, like, they're coming looking for your stuff, and in return, that it's messing with our flow. You're messing us up. So either handle it, or join me, and we can make a truce and handle it together. And I don't know, I really loved his reasonings. I loved him as a villain. I loved every scene that he was in. um Killmonger, I love as well. I think something in me just leans more towards Namor. um I was so excited to see him in this movie, and then I heard that reviews were great about him, which made me even more excited. And I don't know, I just, something about him just kind of made me gravitate to him more than I did in the first Black Panther with Killmonger.
I will say I do think it's a really great point that you said, that it's kind of just like it's that same superhero trope where the hero is just, or the villain is just the hero but evil, like the
Mhm.
same power set type thing. And so I think this movie does that really well. It's not the same situation, even though, I mean, I guess they're both super powered individuals, but still, it's not like Black Panther versus Black Panther. So I will, that's something I enjoy a lot about Namor versus the Killmonger in that, right?
Yeah.
I
I
wanted to
mean,
talk about well, actually, if you have, hold on, if you still have
oh no,
anything else.
I was just gonna say, I mean, it's just two kings going at it for their nations. Like, I thought that was like one of the biggest driving factors that you know took me towards Namor instead of Killmonger. It was just like, it's not the cheap, it's not the copy of the hero. It's just two kings going at it for their country, for their
Yeah.
nation, for their army, and going to whatever end. I mean, there's even, which we'll touch on later, like stuff that Shuri thinks, and stuff that motivates Shuri, to where it's like, nothing's gonna stop me. And I think that's what kept me invested in the entire movie, because like, you're scared of Namor. He's like a ghost. Like, when they're talking about him, they're like, yo, you better chill, because like, there's some shit brewing, and y'all have no idea what it is. It's like, it's just that like little factor the whole movie. You're like, this dude could pop out of nowhere, like this dude could fly up out of nowhere with some spear and just murder somebody. Like,
And mix that with like the introduction that they had at
dude,
the rig. That was
exactly.
crazy.
And
Chill.
even how the Talokans, like, they take a beating, they're right back up. And like, they're just kicking ass, dog. They're dropping 30 points a game on Wakanda every single time they face off, bro. And it's just, it's so fire, because even when they're not near water, even when they're just on a mission, it's like, nah, y'all gotta chill, because y'all don't even know what's going on. And it sucks even more that we can't even tell y'all. And so then whenever you do see him, it's like, shit's about to go down, bro. Like,
Actually, that's
you
a
know,
question I have. Sorry to cut you off.
no.
They didn't really explain like why they come back to life, did they? Like when Okoye stabs those people, or I guess
Um,
maybe she didn't actually kill them.
I don't think she killed them. I think she like got them down. I really don't know why they came back up. I might have missed that as well.
They said in the movie, because she said it later on when she was talking about them. She said that the blows that she landed should have killed them, but they got back up. That was never explained, but I mean, I think they didn't explain a lot of their powers. Take the opening sequence when everybody, starts walking off.
Yeah.
They didn't really explain how that worked either, because I feel like that's something that was only utilized in certain places, and it should have kind of been used more throughout the movie, because it would have made sense to use it. Like, for instance, in the final battle, why didn't they use that same tactic? So I feel like they didn't explain a lot of the powers in that regard. I mean, for Namor, it was pretty obvious a lot of his powers, and they went a little bit more in depth on him. But as for just the people, I don't think that they explained it a lot, other than just saying because of like the gene mutation type of thing, that's basically what gives them like the power to breathe underwater and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So that might just be the explanation, is because of gene mutation, there's these other side effects that they get.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, just to before we continue anymore, I think we are going to venture into spoilers now. At least I want to a little bit.
Yeah. That's good.
So if you haven't seen the movie, this is your chance to leave. Thank you for listening up to this point.
Mhm.
But I want to ask also about the wings. Do we think he's going to grow those back, or the one wing that he got cut off or whatever? Like, how do you think that, can he not fly anymore? Like, I want to know
Yeah.
about that.
I don't know, but that scene made me cringe in my seat, bro. Like, I don't even know how that would feel or how that would even affect him. But like, seeing just, I was like, ooh. You would think that he'd probably be able to grow him back. I mean, they need to. They need to have him grow them back.
Yeah.
I guess he is a mutant anyway. But I also wanted to talk about Riri Williams. What were you guys'
Yes.
thoughts on Riri Williams? Mimish, let's start with you.
You know, I really liked her. She was a real character. I mean, I've seen people try put her as a downside to the film, but I think mainly because she was like, how would I say, like the America Chavez or Multiverse of Madness. Like she's supposed to start it off, so she's important. Like she's supposed to be there. I liked her comedy lines, like taking a mick out of Okoye. Like that was hilarious. I mean that, but I think she was a real character. I mean, I'm more excited for Ironheart now. You know, I'm pretty sure it's going to be up your anticipation list that you did in the last few episodes as well. Yeah, and now she was a very good character. I mean, he hasn't really delved into her properly, just as in she's mainly, I won't say she is, but she's more maybe in the path to comic relief, like just a little bit, but she's there for plot convenience as well, as in a good way, not as in a bad way. But yeah, I really liked Riri Williams. I think she was a really good character to the movie.
You know what I want to say real quick that I just thought of right now, and this might not mean anything at all, but I feel like I want to bring it up. When they say like, "Oh, why did you create this machine to find vibranium?" and she says, "I didn't know that's what they were going to use it for. I just did it as a school project, and I guess it got in the wrong hands, or like something about her professor taking it and putting it in the wrong hands. Why is her professor taking her machines to look for vibranium? Did I miss something, or did they explain that?
Did she say that her professor said that she would never be able to do it? Is that what she?
I don't know. I was
that.
I was under the impression that she did it as a school project, or she did it because like her professor had said something about it, and then it fell in the wrong hands. I don't think the CIA came and contacted her for it and said, "Hey, can you make this vibranium seeking device for us?" I think it fell into the wrong hands without her knowing, and I'm wondering, if her professor has something to do with it, or if the school has something to do with it.
Yeah,
I don't know. That just came up right now in my mind.
I think it's possible because like it could be an intentional detail, because what if her professor is
Dr.
somebody?
Doom.
Yeah.
Okay, but what if her professor is Dr. Doom? What if the whole time he was setting up this class in order to find a genius and basically say like, "Hey, this thing can't be made." Hint, hint. And have somebody who was able to actually do it, who had the knowledge and the skills to be able to do it. It is possible, not necessarily Dr. Doom, but it is possible that whoever it is, that was like the plan the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, it might just be nothing at all. Oh no, go ahead.
I mean, Zendaya and Ned are at MIT as well, so I mean, there might be something in that. I mean, it's more convenient.
Yeah,
that's true.
If they're both on the same.
Benjamin, what were your thoughts on Miss Williams of the Riri variety?
It was interesting right after the movie, because I was talking about it with the whole group that I went to, and when I was
Flex.
talking, okay, yeah, check out my
He's got
Instagram,
friends.
my
He's
Instagram
got
post.
friends. Everybody point and laugh. He's got
My
friends.
Instagram post that John Cohen liked. Shout out to John Cohen for liking my Black Panther picture. So I was talking to a bunch of people, and when I was talking to my girlfriend about it, I had asked her what she thought of the character, and her response was just like, "Why was she there?" was her biggest thing. Which, like, for me, I can understand why people would ask that question, because although I liked her inclusion, it definitely wasn't like necessary to the story. They could have told the exact same story without her involvement, bar like the little bit of the side plot when they specifically go and visit her and the action scene that follows because of that. But they could have still told the same story and made it work without her character. That being said, though, I like her character introduction, and I feel like she fit the vibe of this movie. And I also just like her charisma as a character. She was fun to watch. And I think that what this movie did for her character is similar to like what Civil War did for Black Panther, or what Civil War did for Spider-Man, introducing them in a project where they have a bit of a smaller role, where we're at least familiar with like who they are, a little bit of their background, so that once we get to their project, we don't have to spend, the first third of the movie all on some origin story about how they get to where they're at, which is why I think like, Black Panther and Homecoming were pretty unique in that regard, because it wasn't just an origin story for those heroes. It's, you met these heroes briefly in a movie already, so let's just like get straight into it. You know that they're heroes, some of their background. There's no like wasted time with the setup. So I think that that's cool for her show, because we know kind of her vibe, who she is, a little bit about her tech and her background and everything. I feel like that will help them a lot, because other than like shows that have been about pre-existing characters, we haven't had that for a Marvel TV show yet. Like WandaVision was obvious because they've been in a ton of projects, or like Hawkeye and Loki and everything. But like, we didn't have Miss Marvel show up for a little bit in the movie before her show. So the first episode was totally on her origin. And, they could have taken a different approach if we already knew her. So I'll be curious to see how that affects the structure of Ironheart. But I really like what they did with her character. I think she was just like fun anytime that she was on screen. So I'm excited to see whatever they do with her in the future.
Yeah, I think I agree. I've actually not really argued with a couple of people. It was more just had a discussion, because a lot of people have said that she was a pointless character, and I disagree with the fact that she was pointless. And it speaks to what Ben was talking about, how the movie could have worked without her. I think you could say that for a multitude of characters, though. Like Okoye didn't have to be Okoye. Okoye could have been another Dora Milaje member. It's just when you say things like that, you're just taking away the very real contributions that a character had to the story and applying them to someone else and saying that they didn't need to be there. It could have been someone else. Like, you could say that for, obviously you can't say that for key characters like Shuri has to be the daughter of the queen. Everything has to be the brother of the old king, under like stuff like that. You can't say it for things like that, but there's multitudes of characters you could say that for. So I think that's just a null point to begin with. But I can agree with Ben in the fact that I can understand why people would ask such a question of why she was there. I do think she wasn't pointless, but I think she was wasted, but even then not so, because I think what also Ben mentioned, like, this is like the Civil War equivalent of Black Panther and Peter Parker. The only thing I think was wasted is like the connection between her and Tony. I didn't see that there. The connection between like why she's so smart. Why does she want to model what she's doing after Tony specifically, and not like she knows who Shuri is? Like, why didn't she want to like try to replicate? Obviously, she doesn't have access to vibranium, but if she can build a machine that can find it, I'm just not seeing the why she wants to follow Tony's footsteps yet. I'm sure we'll get that in her show. And like, I'm not saying it was required to be in this movie, but I just think that's one element of her character that might have been missing for me to really fully understand. Because there's been multiple people I've talked to that don't even know. I don't know how they didn't catch on, but they didn't catch on to the fact that this is not, that she is supposed to be like the next Iron Man, essentially. And they didn't make that quite clear, other than her like making an actual Iron Man suit. But And that's the thing, and that's where that's where I feel like it was lacking a little bit. But overall, I loved her. I thought she was most of the time. I thought she was hilarious. There's some stupid like corny stuff like MCU humor type
Yeah.
thing, like when Shuri got the artificial heart shaped herb, and then she turned, she's like, "Can I get some of that?" I was like, "All right, man, what do we? Come on." Like I thought it was funnier when they both said shit, but excuse my
Yeah.
language. But anyway, I really enjoyed her character. And Mimish is right. It made me way more excited to see her show, and I can't wait to see what happens with it.
Yeah, I agree. This did, yeah, make me a lot more excited for Ironheart. She was very charismatic and just very fun to follow around and see perform. Yeah, I thought she did great, and I don't think that the movie would have been better or worse with or without her. Like, I think it was a fine addition. I have no problem with it. It never really felt out of place. The dialogue did get a bit cringy though for a little bit, but like overall, the movie really takes itself like serious, and it's very like just I can't really, for lack of a better word, yeah, it is just very serious. It's not, they don't play around too much. It's like they know what's at hand, and you're taking us on this journey of Shuri and her grieving, and how everyone around her handles T'Challa's death, and how everyone around her is dealing with their grieving as well. Which is why I don't like the Everett Ross and the Julia Louise Dreyfus kind of subplot. I feel like, yes, you're setting up your Thunderbolts. Yes, you're showing how the world is reacting to Wakanda. I think that's great. I think that's fine. I feel like it went on a little bit too long, and we needed to see more of Shuri and her grieving process. And even when Queen Ramonda dies, and oh, just a little sidetrack, dude. Namor saying, well, he said, mourn your losses, bury your dead. You're queen now," and took off like, damn, dude. Damn, that was hard, bro. That was so hard. But when Queen Ramonda dies and M'Baku says, "Look, you can't just bury yourself in your tech again. Like this is you got to learn how to grieve through these deaths. Like the world isn't being kind to you. The world is taking away your family." And what does she do? She buries herself in her tech again. And obviously that doesn't work out, because when it comes time to face Namor, and even Killmonger's dialogue, I think he was a very good addition to this movie, because he sits there and he says, "Are you going to be noble like your brother? Or are you going to get it back in blood? Like, are you going to be like me?
Me.
Or are you going to be noble like your brother?" And she says, "You know what? I'm not my brother." But
See,
she
that's
comes.
why sorry to cut you off. That's why they knew he was the GOAT. They knew he was
That's
the GOAT. They
what.
put him in this movie too. So
Hey,
screw Namor. Forget Namor. That's what I'm saying.
hey,
Okay.
chill out. Do not talk about my king like that. All right. Um, I mean, but he says, "Are you going to be noble like your brother, or are you going to get it back in blood?" And for a minute, she's like, "I'm getting this back in blood." I like, it's off with his head. But she comes to realize that like that's not the right way to go. He has a whole city. He has this beautiful family, this beautiful nation that he's created. Um, and in a way, she's basically, she's gonna leave Talokan the way Wakanda was left after T'Challa's death. And so I loved all of that. I felt like the Everett Ross and the Val stuff. I won't say that it needed to completely be cut out, but I think it went on a little bit too much, where it took me out of the story, and it took me out of Shuri's grieving process, and it took me out of the way Wakanda was handling T'Challa's death and grieving through that, on top of Namor attacking, on top of Queen Ramonda dying, flashing back to Everett Ross every now and then. It was just kind of, I think it was kind of getting old at a point. I'm not saying it was completely unnecessary. I'm not saying that it brought the movie down a ton. I'm just saying, like, I'm sure, and I was talking to my girlfriend's brother-in-law after the movie, and he said, "I'm sure in the future we'll look back and be like, okay, that was good. That set this and this and this up. Like that was very important." In this moment, in this time right now, November 15th, 2022, when we're recording, it really doesn't do anything for me, because I don't know where it's going. And honestly, I would rather focus more on Shuri and the story at hand than something that we won't get, for another couple months, and won't see the results of for another couple months. Not to say that it was horrible, not to say that it wasn't needed, but that's kind of where I stand with that. So I know we were talking about Riri Williams, but I was like thinking about this a lot today, and I wanted to kind of get it out because, you know, the story is how Wakanda reacts to T'Challa's death. It's how Shuri reacts and grieves T'Challa and Queen Ramonda. It's Namor attacking at literally the worst possible time in all of Wakandan history. Let us focus on that a little bit more.
This is a point of conversation that I was expecting to come up. This originally this dialogue started with Soups tweeted out like because he saw the movie before us all at the red carpet premiere, and he mentioned this. There's a subplot storyline going on that served no purpose other than to set up another project, and I guess when I watched it, like I what I don't agree with is the fact that it's setting up Thunderbolts. I don't think it sets up Thunderbolts at all. I feel like anybody who's saying that it sets up Thunderbolts is only saying that because Julia Louis-Dreyfus is there, and it's just a character being there does not equal it setting up Thunderbolts. Mm-hmm. I do agree it is setting up something in the future, and I think that is most likely Black Panther 3, and I think that is because Black Panther 3 is probably going to center around the U.S. government and their attempts to not commandeer Wakanda, but just take their resources. Like they talked about, they were planning an attack maybe on Wakanda in that meeting that they were having. But I do also think that they didn't convey that very well with this storyline. I think I am in agreement that the storyline I think was a deviation that didn't need to necessarily be taken. I know that they do need to set up other things. I just don't think it was setting up Thunderbolts. I do think it's still somewhat compelling that it's what it is setting up. Like that line that Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character says, she dreams of the U.S. being in control of all of vibranium in the world. Like that's a knowing how powerful vibranium is, and they make that a point. And both from Wakanda's standpoint and Talakan's standpoint, and to hear someone say that, and they dream of that, like that's a scary thought. And like you're supposed to look at that and think like, wow, that should be interesting to see in the future, in a future Black Panther thing. And so I think it's interesting, but I agree that it didn't need to be in there. But I also think most of what Agent Ross and her character, I feel like it all pertained still to the story at hand within the movie. Like most of it was talking about Wakanda and what they're like. Did Wakanda do this attack on the mining rig, or was it this third party type nation that we don't know about yet, obviously, or that Wakanda does? I still think every conversation they had pertained to this story. I just think it was a far branch from the story. Obviously, it was this other set of characters that we weren't really trying to focus on at the time. So I can understand why people have an issue with it, but I still very much think it was setting something up, but it also still pertained to the story at hand here. So I don't really have that much of an issue with it.
I mean, you got some thoughts, Mimish, whoever.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Ben go last since he's got a lot on it. I mean, next. I mean,
honestly, it looks like he's thinking a little bit. I think
I'm good. I can go. I'm ready.
All right.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot because it was a topic of conversation. Like right as soon as the movie came out, and Soups was able to explain. There's a lot of people who were in agreement, some that were in disagreement. I also didn't see this as a setup to Thunderbolts. Like, I think that yes, just knowing like the connection to Everett Ross and more about Val, I think that could be significant in Thunderbolts. But this didn't feel like they were trying to like force a setup for Thunderbolts. It's one of those things where like what they had felt necessary for this story, but it could also lead and pertain to that story. I think that they had a reason to be there. I think the connection that Everett Ross had to Wakanda is something that was really important for his character in this movie. I mean, he's one of the few outsiders who has ever gone to Wakanda, and he had a fairly significant role in that realm in the first Black Panther film. And I honestly think that if it wasn't for that connection, that Val or just the U.S. government, whoever, they could have handled things a lot differently in this movie. Like if it wasn't for him kind of holding them back because he had insider information that it could be somebody else, it wasn't the Wakandans. Like if it wasn't for that, who knows what decisions could have been made, considering what the United States still wants to do to Wakanda and what they could still potentially do in the future. So that's something that I thought of. And then when it comes to just like taking away to the story as a whole, where it felt like we were going from a story about grief and then cutting to like Everett Ross and everything, for me, this movie is probably the most tonally consistent movie that we've gotten maybe in all of Phase 4. I know that might be a bold statement to say, because there's been some ones that are like tonally consistent. Like Eternals was pretty tonally consistent.
Yeah, I was gonna say Eternals.
But this one, especially compared to like Love and Thunder and Multiverse of Madness, I feel like this one dealt with that perfect blend of how they did emotions and emotional pacing. And while this is a story about grief, it's a 2 hour and 45-minute movie. And in my opinion, they did everything that they needed to on an emotional side. So like the time spent elsewhere, it was significant enough where I wouldn't have said like, oh, they should have spent that time with just more grieving and more emotional moments. I still think they did like everything that they needed to from that emotional standpoint. So for me, like I can see why people would have an issue with the storyline. I think it was important for the story, and at least for me personally, I think it worked well with the pacing to not necessarily contrast the grieving, but it still added to the story, but not every single thing in the movie needed to be about the grieving and the loss and everything, because the emotional moments that they did have were so good consistently throughout the movie. So that's kind of my take on it. So I can understand why people would say it, but I personally disagree. It didn't really feel out of place in my opinion.
All right. I mean, everybody look at this. Just read that. You can't. Number of Ben W's, 2. We're going to up it to 3. We're going to up it to 3.
How long have you
That's
kept
wild.
that? Have you kept that since we met?
I won't lie. I just typed it out right now.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But finally, Ben's taking W's. You love to see it. You love to see it, man.
I'll let Mimish give his take on it, and then I kind of want to rebuttal that.
Yeah. So I think the subplot, I think it would have been. I know why people don't like it. I mean, maybe mainly because of the scenes that they use. I mean, if they, for example, I think the second scene with them when she was in his house having olive oil or something like that, I was like, you could have changed that to maybe of them planning for something instead of more just dialogue. Because I feel like if they had good scenes, the subplot would have been fine. I mean, I was okay with it, but obviously it did drag me out of the film. But I feel like there were some scenes that were not needed. Like she said, I was listening to your Komodo beats like all this time. And it's like, okay, like what's gonna happen? So you listen to me. It's like it was I feel like they could have just the scenes, but I feel like the subplot was good. I mean, it was mentioned. I mean, the concept of them two being there just to take them out to the Western world, I think it was good. But I think maybe just the scenes might have been changed just a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like the subplot wasn't needed. Like I said, I think it's good. They're showing how the U.S. is responding to Wakanda. They're showing the discrimination that they're like, oh, Wakanda did this, didn't they? And it's like, no, like they didn't do. Why is that your first thought? Why not consider all possibilities? They're coming out of the ocean. They're blue. What makes you think like, like it was good for that reason. Showing how the U.S. was responding, showing how Val is kind of taking all this information. It just went on too long. I don't think we needed as much of it as we got. I think you can maybe cut about 10 minutes of that, make the movie 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 20 minutes. You don't even need all those scenes. You can just do like a couple of like 10-minute, 5-minute scenes, like 2 of them. I don't think you need to spend so much time with these characters when we're dealing with, Talokan versus Wakanda. Namor versus the Wakandans, Shuri and Namor, Queen Ramonda and Namor, M'Baku, how everyone is handling T'Challa's death and Namor attacking, how Talokan is handling Wakanda attacking, and everything about Talokan and Namor. I think that's what the movie should be about. If you're gonna set up like a Black Panther 3, like that's fine, but we don't need to cut to it every 10-20 minutes. And I'm not saying that they were setting up Thunderbolts for sure. I mean, we know Val's going to be in talks with the Thunderbolts. She's going to be like kind of the one to fill in the General Ross position. Maybe it is setting up Thunderbolts, maybe it's not. Maybe it is setting up Black Panther 3, maybe it's not. Maybe it's setting up something completely different. Either way, I feel like it was just too much. And it was taking me out of the movie at times when we're going through like something at Wakanda. We're going through something with Shuri dealing with Namor, Wakanda dealing with Namor. And then we cut to Val and Everett Ross kind of talking, and then him having a quick little phone call and then making a quippy joke in between. Or like her finding out that Everett Ross has been in communication with Wakanda this whole time, her making a quippy joke and getting them arrested. It's just like, I feel like we went back to it too much and we didn't need to. I feel like a couple of like, 10-minute scenes or 5-minute scenes with them two, with some dialogue, setting something up or setting up the next act or something like that would have worked fine. Because I know Everett Ross is, not the most important character, but a very important character to Black Panther 1 and to this. And like you said, he's like one of the only outsiders that has been in Wakanda and everything. So, I get it. I'm not saying that he's not completely needed. I'm not saying that all of that should have been cut. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm not saying that the whole movie needs to be about grief and needs to be a sad cry fest. Not at all. I think it's fine that it's in the movie. Like I said, I think it serves a purpose. I just think it goes on a little bit too much. And I feel like it was very shoehorned in at times. It was just like, why do we need to cut back to this at this time? Or why do we need to cut back for a 5-minute quippy joke setting up the next scene? I feel like there was a lot of times where I was just like, okay, and I kind of got tired of it, where I wanted to like, take me back to Talokan, take me back to, Shuri and Namor spitting bars at each other. Like that's what I want to see. That's what's dope, Let scare me with Namor some more. I really didn't care about Val and Everett Ross all that much. That's just, I mean, that's where I stand on it.
Listen, it's okay to be wrong, Aiden. It's really okay. Like,
I mean,
a
I'm
lot of
not
the time,
I'm not the only one who feels like this though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I guess
fine.
you and
It's
everybody else
fine.
are wrong. That's
You don't
crazy.
got you don't
Fine
gotta
to be wrong.
justify it.
Yeah. Being wrong, it's okay to be wrong every once in a while.
We all have different opinions. It's just that some are correct and some are atrocious. That's
And
okay.
y'all's are atrocious. I mean, I just, I don't think it was completely unnecessary. I don't think it doesn't bring the movie down too much for me. I'm not like on some soup shit right now, but like, like straight up, it didn't really like, it took me out a little bit, not to say I hated it, not to say that I don't think it was necessary. Just wish it was cut down a little bit more. That's it.
Honestly, that's how I feel about the third act, the fight.
Yeah, me too.
I like the structure of it was really, really weird. Like they kept cutting back, and like I get that there's two fights happening, but I just feel like the editing of it all could have been a little bit better. I wanted to stick with the Namor and Black Panther fight way more than I wanted to stick with
The boat scene.
the big boat army fight. But I felt, I think it served both of them justice. Don't get me wrong, but it just seems like the editing there was something really cool. Like as soon as the crash happened, right as soon as they crashed on the desert island, it panned up and then faded to the armies fighting. It's like, what? That's a big moment that just happened. You're edging me on like that. Like, come on, I want to see that.
Yeah.
And not that obviously the story is about two kingdoms going to war. I understand that, and I'm not, me personally, I did, like I said, I favored the Black Panther Namor fight more. But I still appreciated the big war scene. It's just, I felt like I was, every time it cut away, I was like, oh man, I wanted to see more of that. We're like right now at this moment, I don't want to come back to it later. And then almost looking at that, when I felt like that, then when we go back to the big fighting war scene, it made me not appreciate it as much, because I was like, man, I really wanted to see more of that. Like, can we get back to that quickly, please? At least for me.
Yeah, that was a big letdown, not letdown for me, but that's a big reason why I kind of went from like an 8.5 to a 9 down to like an 8.4, 4 stars on Letterboxd. That's what kind of brought me down a little bit. I mean, I think the cutting back to the boat scene, it really didn't feel like it wasn't all that intriguing. I thought it was cool. The visuals were really cool, and I mean, seeing them all go at it was awesome. Some of the CGI, man, very dodgy, and I would be lying if I said it didn't take me out a little bit. You know, seeing Namor and Shuri going at it, and then seeing like her suit being all like shaky and kind of like badly done. It kind of took me out at some points. But really, yeah, that last big fight scene, there's some really good moments and there's a lot to love out of it. Like I said, Shuri coming back down to earth with her grief and realizing like killing this man isn't the best option for me. I whether I like it or not, I am noble like my brother. You know, I am a part of him is me, and you know the best parts of him are me, and I need to embrace that and stop being angry about it. And I feel like she's angry about it because of the way she handles the grief, you know, burying it all down and burying herself in her tech. Um, and so to see her finally come full circle with that, I thought it was beautiful. Like there's lots of love about that last act or that last battle scene. But there is also a lot to dislike, and I feel like I'm leaning more towards that.
Mish, what did you think of the third act?
I mean, I get what you mean. The editing was very weird, but I didn't really focus that much on it, to be honest, because on the first time I watched it, emotions. The second time I watched it, to thoroughly deep inside of it, like not deep, it's like thoroughly analyze the third act. I think editing was a bit shaky, but I didn't really see any like I didn't feel any bad TGI moments, but I don't know which areas, but I think overall, I think it's actually just a great film. Like I just think of this film. The negatives are the subplots. I think that's one of the negatives, and also, what else would be a negative? Like I just love this film. Like
Man loves it.
from the soundtrack. Let's not talk about the soundtrack because I'll go on for hours. I'll go on.
Yeah.
I'll go on for hours like this. That yeah, but moving on, like third act, I think. Yeah, I haven't mainly editing. Yeah, editing was little bit weird, cutting back forward. Apart from that, I just liked it. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I just really liked it.
All right, well let's hear Ben's. I'm about to add another 10 to Ben's L list.
No.
Based off his facial expressions earlier, but go ahead.
I like to be expressive, just so you know that I think you're giving an atrocious take. No, but it's not. It's not an atrocious take. I definitely felt the editing. I will just say that, like almost all Marvel films, I went to watch this in IMAX, and something that was very obvious is that the scene on the boat was filmed for IMAX, which means that the like black bars that are typically on a movie were extended. But then every time it would cut, it would shrink, and it was going back and forth every time it would cut. And that made me notice how many times it was cutting back and forth between the two scenes. So I can agree that the editing was messy. What I would question to both you, Aiden, and Charlie is, so let's think about what they need to do. Everybody is on the boat for the final battle, including Namor and Shuri. And you need to take them away from the battle, have the Wakandans lose, have Namor and Shuri work it out, and come back to basically save the Wakandans and end everything in a semi-peaceful way after most of them have already been killed anyways. So you need to do that, and everybody's there at the start. How do you fix it from what they gave us? How do you do it differently where you can still pull these two aside, give them their moments, have the Wakandans lose? How does it all fit together without just like lingering on one for then too long? How do you make it work?
Okay.
Well, go
first.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would actually liken it to something like Infinity War. If you look at like how they were up on Titan, they were doing their thing on Titan, and then shortly after that, they would cut down to Wakanda. Like, and I feel like the Titan thing, I can't remember exactly when they cut from Titan down to Wakanda. I think it was after Thanos got the glove off, and so that was like almost building like a real sort of like real tension there, and it's like, oh my, it's like almost like a cliffhanger that I feel like works as Infinity War as a cliffhanger versus like I see these two these like
go for it. Let's go for it.
The feather serpent god, I guess. But I see these two super powered individuals crashing a jet. I know they're fine. I want to see them get up right away and start fighting. Versus like with Infinity War, Thanos just got the glove off. And the heroes are starting to get their ass whooped. It cuts away. It's like, we're not giving you that yet. We're gonna go back down to Earth, ground this a little bit, do like a big earthly multi-alien battle like we're really good at, And so I guess what I would say, because also they structured it a little bit differently. Okoye and I can't remember the other Dora Milaje member's name that had the Iron Man suits on.
Is it
not Iron Man suits, but whatever. Shuri's suits.
Yeah.
Was it Anika?
Annika?
Was it her?
Or Aneka? Yeah, I think I don't know.
Yeah.
They both came in like after Wakanda started to lose, which I understand like from a strategical point of view, like that makes sense, like your last ditch effort kind of thing. But I almost just feel like have everybody involved right away, and I don't know if you structure it in such a way that the Talokans, because it seemed like, how did they have their entire army come in almost a fraction of a second to that location? And then how Ben mentioned earlier, how they don't do certain things, like how the voice hypnotization thing that they had earlier on in the film. Like, I don't know. I feel like you could shorten that aspect of it down so much more than the actual big fight that most people care about, Black Panther versus Namor. I feel like they took too much time away. I still feel like it was very satisfactory. Don't get me wrong, but I just wanted to see more of it. Like that, I've seen so many big army battles before in other MCU movies. There's nothing else that I really want to see in this beyond maybe like focus on Okoye and Atuma fighting, because they made that a point multiple times in the film. Like they see each other, they're like warrior, and they want to fight. I get that. Show me that. I want to see that follow through. Show me some more M'Baku action, because he didn't get much in Wakanda. He got rocked real quick by Namor. Show me some more M'Baku. Show me Ironheart's new suit. Obviously, I want to see that, and they did that. That's how they got Namor onto the ship. And so, but beyond that, what else is there? Dora Milaje, seen it before. I would like to see a little bit of it, but not like too much to cut away from all that. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling at this point, but that's what I would do, I guess.
Yeah, and right about the same. Like, I love what you said about the cliffhanger, because I can think of a moment where Namor drives the spear through Shuri, and you're like, oh shit. Like after that, okay, cut to the boat scene, have them going at it, have the Wakandans start going down in numbers to the point where they start getting cornered. And then cut back to
both
the
of them are like down.
Yes.
So like both teams are down.
Yes, and you're starting to show. And then once Shuri gets back up and she's like, all right, you know what? I'll let you survive. Then cut back and finish it the way that they actually did it in the movie. Have Namor and Black Panther come back. But I mean, you can cut those moments up like that. Like, I love when they cut stuff like, all right, we have this fight and we have this fight, and they're doing the same themes. It's like, oh, Shuri has the upper hand here. Okay, look, Wakanda's getting the upper hand here. Okay, now Shuri just got stabbed. Cliffhanger. Wakanda's getting down in numbers. Cliffhanger. And then boom, back to like our main story.
Yes. And what I'll say is, I was not posing that question to like push back and challenge what you guys were saying. I was pushing back because I agree. And I honestly think that it would have been a really easy thing to fix. And it was more so up with how they chose to edit the third act of the movie, like the whole final battle. Because you're right, that moment when she gets stabbed, and I'm just going to briefly say that sound editing with like the heartbeat was absolutely phenomenal in that moment. But like those are like the key moments within the battle. And if they would have just chosen to spend more time on that and do a better job with kind of the pacing of both of the fights and how they tie in with one another, I definitely think it could have worked way better and flowed easier. So Charlie, you can actually up my amount of W's.
There we go.
I agree with you. I was not saying that I disagree, but I was just curious because like when I thought about it, I was like, it's not that I hated the third act, but I feel like it very easily could have been a lot better.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Ben passes again.
So
am I back? Hello?
Yeah, you're here.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know what
You're
happened.
lagging a little bit. So I want to talk about kind of the first 10-ish minutes and the last 10 minutes where I sobbed like a baby. I could not hold it in, dude. Just I think one of the most like powerful moments, because we've all, I think everyone's kind of had a moment like this where whatever you believe in, whatever your religion is, where sure he's like, if you can make this work and make this better, I will never question your existence again. Just for a couple minutes later for her to say he's gone, he's passed. And that last sequence with when they play the clips of Chadwick, ah man, and then it's just the whistling, that's all. There's no music, no nothing, they just make you sit with it. Both moments with the fanfare and with the last minute, I mean, theater was just silent, completely silent. You hear some sniffles, some tears come in. I really do want to say that that ending scene where it's just silent and then they cut to the credits and Rihanna's song comes in. Oh, I mean, that has to be a top 10 moment in like all movie watching history for me, because at that moment I couldn't hold it back anymore. And I want to know what like y'all's theaters was like and like the atmosphere when y'all watched it.
The first time I saw it, the beginning, you could hear a pin drop. It was so quiet.
Yes.
So, and that was Thursday opening night, and like obviously there's like a mutual respect from all the fans that are going that on opening night there. But then I saw it again on the next day, Friday. So like the day it actually comes out, and like all the casuals are starting to go, and then you hear people munching on popcorn. I was like, come on, guys, what are we doing? What are we doing, man? But no, and like for me, the beginning got me really bad, and then honestly, Angela Bassett's death, her character's death, in the movie got me really bad as well. But the end didn't really get me too bad. I teared up, but I didn't like full on cry. It didn't. I don't know why. Yeah, it was both for my first experience. Both the beginning and the end were like you could hear a pin drop. It was great.
Yeah. I wish that I could talk about the Rihanna's song in the credits, but the theater we can't be saying that. Oh gosh.
Oh, that's staying in, man. That's staying in, dude.
It can stay in. It's funny. No, but yeah, I think the most emotional that I got was when the Marvel intro was playing in the silence with the clips of Chadwick. That's the most emotional that I got. I think silence is so powerful because like it makes you kind of uncomfortable in a way, because like we're all not used to silence like ever. I even think about, is it Avengers Endgame where their introduction is like, it's all kind of mysterious. It's either Infinity War or Endgame, but the way that they start off is like very daunting and sets the emotional tone very well. And I feel like this was like the perfect, like I could not have thought of a better way to do it. Like you think of how most movies deal with like sad scenes as there's sad music accompanying it. It's like, a low key piano type of sad vibe that it wants to give you. But in this case, they're like, no, we don't need to do that. Like people understand the significance of it. So let's just have it be completely silent. And like, when you're seeing the clips of Chadwick in complete silence, like it hits you. It hits you hard. I got somewhat emotional towards the end. And I think when we're talking about end, we're talking about the mid-credit scene, right?
Oh, I'm talking about when Shuri's on the beach and they start playing the montage of Chadwick in the first.
Oh, yeah. I did get emotional there, but I honestly think I was more emotional during the post-credit scene, to be honest. So there were definitely a few moments where I at least felt the emotion. The only time that I was really like tearing up was during the Marvel intro. But as a whole, I think like every scene that they decided to kind of dedicate to, like, because the movie deals a lot with the characters' grief and emotions, but the movie itself also allows the audience to have time to deal with grief and emotions for a real life event, which I think is really beautiful that it's able to do that, because that then the experience and the emotions it really transcends the movie. It's not emotions that you feel because of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It's because of something that actually happened, which to me is a lot more impactful. So I think they definitely handled it very well from an emotional standpoint. I was not expecting them to handle the death of Black Panther in the way that they did. I know that's kind of a little bit of a different topic, but the way that they just started off the movie, I didn't expect them to handle it that way. But I kind of like it. I kind of
Yeah.
like the way that
It's
they did it.
respectful.
Yeah, it's very, very respectful, because I know, like, for other franchises that they've had an actor pass away and they've always had to kind of decide how they wanted to do it. Most recently, like with Carrie Fisher passing away and then her being in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, she had like a decent amount of screen time in that movie even after her passing. So just the way that they handle it is always interesting to see. And I didn't know how they were going to do it, but I really like the way that they did it in this film.
Mimish.
Yeah, I think in the film they used quite a bit of scenes where they didn't use any music at all, and it's mainly like, I mean, they have a sound. They've used their music in their soundtrack amazingly, through no silence, through a siren, to it's an
Yeah.
amazing music like throughout the film. Like, but that's the last scene when it's just the montage of him and it's quiet and it's flashing. That's the most it's ever been for me. Like the beginning, I was like, okay. But my first screening, I don't know how it's like you know in America, but people are still standing up in our screening, so we could barely pay attention to the film. I was like, okay. So then the second screening, I was like, okay, this is more like it. Like people are quiet now. But the last bit was the most like everyone's quiet, no one's speaking, and it's just him, just being Chadwick, like just being Black Panther. That role is made for him. Like it was perfect for him, and just showing him at his best, you know, smiling.
Yeah.
You know, it was the best as well. And the mid credit scene,
Yeah.
that was good as well. That was really good. That was yeah. But the last bit hit the tone for me. That was the best for me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm very emotional, especially when it comes to movies or like video games or stuff like media. I tend to get very emotional. Like real life stuff, I don't really get emotional, but like media for some reason gets me different. Um, that first that first sequence, and then coupled up with the Marvel intro of just being silenced, that one really got me. There was a moment where Shuri was talking about how T'Challa suffered in silence. That one got me really bad because obviously Chadwick suffered in silence as well. Um, and that last montage scene was with Shuri crying and the montage of Black Panther and then the Rihanna's music just coming in. That was the hardest I cried in the movie. And I was crying, bro. Like I'm not talking about just like sniffling, like wiping my tears. Like I'm talking about I was crying. And yeah, so for me that moment was probably the hardest. That one hit the hardest. I also cried during Queen Ramonda's death. I looked at my girlfriend and I was like, her too, and I started crying again. I was like, God damn it, man. So yeah, I also wanted to say, I feel like Queen Ramonda's death, which this might not be the reasoning. If it is, tons of respect. I feel like they killed her off to kind of give Shuri that voice from the afterlife that Chadwick wouldn't have been able to do, because obviously they're not going to CGI him in, or they're not going to like ADR his voice in there to like kind of talk to her. They kind of used Ramonda in that role. If that's intentional, and if it's for that reason, I completely respect them for that, because I feel like CGIing him in would have kind of felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Hearing his voice, maybe that's a little bit better, but like just kind of keeping him out of it all in one, just not even touching it, because the CGIing dead people back into movies is kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of a touchy topic for me, and sometimes it just looks really bad. Like I think General Tarkin in Rogue One. It's like, oh, so
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think Queen Ramonda's death was kind of used for the purpose of filling in Chadwick's spot of kind of being that like voice in her ear to kind of be like, hey, think about what you're doing, think about like what you stand for and everything. Do y'all agree? Did you not?
No, no, I
All right.
disagree.
All right, cool. Well, anyways, Ben's out of here. So
Whoa, I don't even get to speak my
Spider-Man?
piece.
Go ahead,
Nah.
man.
you're good. Go ahead, Ben.
No, it's just I think that while she was used for that, and that might have been one of the reasons, I think more so the main reason why they would have killed her off is in order to give Shuri like really like that full responsibility for what's going to happen, because Shuri's not the queen until her mother dies. And even just with the line that Namor has, like he's just like, you have responsibility now. It adds a lot more significance to everything that she does after that, because she is now queen of Wakanda. Before, she was just princess of Wakanda, right? So I think that that's the driving factor, is it really ups the level of responsibility that Shuri has, because whatever she decides to do for the rest of the film really is going to influence how she leads her nation and how her people even just view her as a leader. Whereas before that, without the death of the queen, I don't think it would hold as much significance, at least in my opinion.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have made any sense for it to be her father as well, mainly with Killmonger as well. I mean, them two wouldn't have worked. So, I think they did plan it, but
I think it goes back. Sorry if you weren't done,
no, it's
Manish,
fine, it's
but
fine.
I think it lines up perfectly because and I'm glad they didn't do it too much also, but that line where she said, "Show them who you are, Shuri," and that's exactly what she said to Chadwick, or T'Challa, excuse me, in the first movie. And so it kind of comes full circle there, and obviously there's the full circle moment where Shuri is standing over Namor and says, "Vengeance has consumed us." And I can't remember the second part that she says, but I was really expecting her to because I remember the Civil War line. It's like, "Vengeance has consumed them," or "Vengeance has consumed you, and it's consuming them. I'm done letting it consume me." But it was still a callback to that line, and I thought, obviously that doesn't speak to the Queen Ramonda stuff though. But anyway, the whole point of it is just being like that. It was beautifully full circle, and also touching on that moment. I just want to say, like, that's a Martha moment from Batman versus Superman, but like done right, because
Yeah.
but it cuts to both Shuri's mom and Namor's mom. They're both thinking about each other's moms, but like you actually feel the emotion there, and it feels more human rather than someone who's your son, or someone who is the son of this person, and then says, like, would you call your mom by her first name when you're referring? No, you wouldn't do that. And it's like, it just anyway, but it just goes to show, like, I was gonna say what Ryan Coogler can do, but yes, and also just like what actually humanizing your characters, what that can accomplish for the audience, and it was really, really well done, both from that perspective as well as like the full circle with Queen Ramonda.
Yeah. Dude, I know there was a moment where Black Panther and Namor, Shuri and Namor, they fly in on the ship, and he basically says, "Hey, wrap it up here. Our fight is over. We need to go back." I was just like, and even like their lines of dialogue with each other and their last fight scene, I was like, dude, I wish I could see T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman, and Namor just going at it, bro. Like just their dialogue, their action, like it killed me in that moment. I was like, man, I would do anything to see Chadwick in this role right now, just going ham with Namor, just going at it, two kings. Uh, I just I never missed him more in that role than that moment right there.
You know when they said if Chadwick was still alive, they wrote the script, right? Obviously, but wasn't the story going to be about him struggling with the blip?
Yeah.
If I'm right.
Yeah,
Would
which
they
I
have?
think would have been great too.
Yeah. Would they have even included Namor there? Do you think, or do you think he was put in there for Shuri?
Man,
That's a good question.
That's hard because if not, then what else would it have been about? Like, yeah, it would have been him struggling with the 5 year blip, but like, what else are you going to throw in there? Like, would the U.S. government then take most of the reins that Namor would
Yeah.
have,
I was
or
thinking like, because since he blipped, I was thinking maybe there would have been a different king, and would have to challenge for it back, maybe
maybe?
um, something like that. But
I really
yeah,
don't know.
that was interesting. But I got a question. Um, oh my god, my brain. Oh Lord, this never happened before. Okay, cool. Okay. um, okay.
You want you want us to
yeah,
come? You want me to come
yes,
back to you?
yes, please.
I have a question. Can I ask
All
a
right.
question?
Yeah,
Perfect,
yeah.
perfect.
Well, I had two things actually that I wanted to talk about because we talked about the use of silence before in the movie, and I just wanted to point out, and I know we've talked about just like the final battle, but my favorite action scene in the entire movie was the bridge fight. And I
Mm,
thought that that was just like extremely well choreographed. It had room to breathe. It wasn't just like exciting explosions, CGI moments. It was very much like a focused one-on-one. It reminded me honestly of like Shang-Chi because it was just like dedicating breathing room to well choreographed action. But something that I definitely noticed and I've heard people say is that that fight scene specifically when it's the one-on-one more well choreographed action is also done in silence, which
Yeah,
is something that like I didn't necessarily notice until I thought about it. And then I'm like, yeah, it actually was done in silence. And for me, that made it the best action scene in the movie, which like it's kind of maybe surprising to say, considering, you know, it didn't have Shuri as Black Panther. It didn't include Namor. But for me, it was my favorite, and I think it was the most well done. So talking about the use of silence or just about the action in general, what did you guys think of the bridge scene? I know it seems like a random thing to bring up,
mhm.
but it's been on my mind.
Dude,
um,
I thought it was phenomenal. Sorry, I don't mean to cut anyone off, but I actually thought it was phenomenal. Um, like I said, when they just pop up out of the water and just land on the bridge, I mean, dude, like those Talocans were serving those Talocanians, whatever you want to call them. I mean, they were going ham all movie, bro, and like just that serious nature that they have to themselves, where they're so intimidating. I think even one of the other like action scenes. Granted, it's not like a true fight because I mean these humans never stood a chance against them. But like that opening scene introducing us to the Talocans and or Talocanians, whatever you want to call them, and then Namor just grabbing the helicopter, throwing that bitch in the water, and just standing there with his chest puffed out. Like, bro, that was some of the coolest. At that moment, I was like, this dude is a goat. Like one of my favorite Marvel villains right here. I I love Namor, and so I like that scene as well. But yeah, that bridge scene was fire as well. Choreograph was out of this world amazing too. I really enjoyed seeing Okoye giving them the beats at times.
I liked it because it gave me a sense of tension for I think that's what really, well, actually I can't say that. I was gonna say that's what really gave the Talocans like a real sense of overboating fear, but I guess it also did for Wakanda anyway, because I was gonna say I take that back because their introduction, like Aiden mentioned with Namor hovering over at that um diving site, their introduction there was their overboating sense of fear and just how they really don't want to be messed with. But I guess the bridge scene was because it speaks to like them coming back to life and like how great of a warrior Atuma is. And if Atuma is that well trained and can keep up with the Dora Milaje's best fighter, then like obviously they are a force to be reckoned with. Um, Granted, obviously the three the Dora Milaje's best fighter, she took down three of them by herself, which is also sick to see. But um, no, I think I'm inclined to agree that that was my favorite. I think that whole sequence was actually my favorite, even the lead up to the bridge thing. Just the chase scene on the bike, and then with all the stuff with the car, and then watching Riri fly up in the air and shoot the drone out of the sky. Like it was just super exhilarating to watch for me. So I think that whole sequence was actually really one of my favorites in the entire film. But I can't really think of any other action scene that stood out more. So I think I'm in agreement with Ben, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, before before the action scene happened, there was like a split frame where Ironheart was above the car of Shuri and the motorbike of Shuri and Okoye in the car, and then you could see Ironheart go through the camera. I don't know why it gave me very big Avengers vibes. Just it
Oh
felt good, and
yeah.
then everything just broke down, and you just see the Talocans come out of nowhere, and the bit that just made me go, oh, it's just the quietness. You could hear their feet. I don't know why. That bit was like that was the main bit for me. I could hear the feet flapping against the concrete, and it's like, okay, this is why I love. Like, no, we haven't really seen, I'd say, an action film without no sound. I mean, the closest thing I can remember is Winter Soldier, where Bucky first came,
Mhm.
and it was like a little screeching noise. I think
Is
that's
yeah, like his
yeah.
scream.
Yeah, and it kept on going louder. I can't remember anything else that was quiet because all fight scenes nowadays have music. But that was one of a kind, and that's, I think, yeah, it probably is, and I think it is probably the best action sequence.
Yeah, and there are some action franchises that don't use music as much in the action. I think of the John Wick movies. Like when I think back, especially, why are you smiling, Charlie? What are
It's
you?
always John
I just
Wick
feel,
with
yeah, I
this
feel like it's
man.
always
What?
John Wick. You John Wick stan, bro.
That is one of my favorite action franchises of all
Well,
time. But
I mean, I don't mean to cut you off, Ben, but like even that one scene in the Batman, granted it's not a huge action sequence, but when he's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "Pop, pop, pop, ah, da, da," just giving him the beats. There's no music. It's just straight fist to cheek the whole entire fight
yeah,
scene.
yeah.
That too.
I agree with you, but
But back to
okay,
John Wick.
back to
Okay, go
John Wick.
ahead.
Especially John Wick Chapter 3, which has like a variety of unique action scenes. Something that I can always think back to is when I think back to those scenes, I can think back to like the grunts and like the power in every hit. And it really does a lot sometimes to not have music within your scene. And this was one of the first times I've ever felt that in a Marvel film. Like even Shang-Chi, with having the best action of any Marvel movie, in my opinion, like the bus fight scene, there was music in that, which, yeah, the music accompanied it well, but who knows what it could have looked like if you just take the music out and have it feel more realistic. And in the case of this movie, the bridge scene was phenomenal. I loved it so much, and I think having no music honestly helped it so much. And maybe my love for John Wick helped me love that scene even more. So
Hey,
whatever.
W.
It is a W take.
Respect.
The other thing that I wanted to ask about is, which I'm not sure the exact name for it, but the heart-shaped herb that gives you the power of the Black Panther. What's it called?
I think it's the heart-shaped herb.
Is that really all it's called?
I think yeah. I think so.
Okay. Another common W, I guess. No, but something that I've heard people talk about, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, is that part of what made Killmonger feel so powerful in the first Black Panther movie is when he took over and he burned all the flowers and was basically like, we're going to limit the amount of people who have the ability to get this power. Like, it's changing the hierarchy of power in Wakanda. It's a good way to word. It. But now in this movie, they basically just reversed that and now just said that they can make as many as they want. So, like, some people are saying that undermines some of what Killmonger did in the first film. So I guess, how do you feel about them bringing back the heart-shaped herb and basically just reversing what Killmonger did?
Okay, look, I'm willing to look past it, and I'm not even going to give attention to this argument because, like, obviously, look, I'll explain. It's a good argument. It's a good plot hole to bring up. But here's the thing: you think Ryan Coogler knew that he was going to have to go back and make another Black Panther after Black Panther 1 and after Killmonger burned all the heart-shaped herb? No. Like, I'm sure if Chadwick Boseman was still alive, that they wouldn't have even touched about how there's no more, heart-shaped herb. But the fact that Chadwick passed away and you need another Black Panther and you need to find a way to, give her the heart-shaped herb to give her the powers of Black Panther. Oh, well, she's a tech genius. Why not have her make one? Like it's just Ryan Coogler trying his best to do what he can with the hand that he was dealt, which was Chadwick Boseman sadly passing away. So I'm not even gonna like like pay any mind to that, because while yes it is a plot hole and yes it does undermine a lot of what the first movie had, I'm sure that wasn't Ryan Coogler's intention when writing that into the first movie. You know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean. I just want to clarify.
Yeah, it's not Ben. It's
I was
no,
asking,
no, yeah, for sure. No,
yeah.
I know it
And I
wasn't
think
you.
and I think
Yeah.
Aiden was Aiden was
Because
probably about it too.
I've seen that. I saw a video on that today on TikTok, which is why I was like, when you brought it up, I know maybe we saw the same person post it, but I saw somebody talk about it, and I was like, so whenever you like brought up the argument, like, no, I know that where you stand on it, but that's just kind of where I am, because when I saw it, I was just kind of like, come on, like, because it's hard to even be like, for a while it was hard to even be critical on this movie. Like, I didn't want to make my letterbox review right away, because I was like, it's hard, like Ryan Coogler has to deal with like the worst hand dealt ever, and we're dealing with someone suddenly passing away, and now he has to make a whole movie about it and explain everything while also making it all makes sense, just for us or critics to come in and be like, yeah, it's a plot hole, that sucked, that was ass, like you could have did this a lot better. It's like, and so for a while I was kind of like that. We're here to talk about movies, though. We're here to criticize movies, so we're gonna do it all in respect to Chadwick, all in respect to Ryan Coogler. But that's one of those things where it's just like, you got to look at it and be like, okay, did he really mean to do this? With, if like, would he have made this choice if Chadwick didn't pass away? Like, I'm sure not. So yeah, that's where I kind of stand on it.
Did bringing back half of all existence in the universe undermine what Thanos did? I don't understand.
Yeah, Thanos was right.
It's just
But give me
that's the
put
same
up
question.
Put up my Homelander gif. Thanos was right.
No.
Because that's essentially what they're saying. It's like, it doesn't take away what they did. I mean, in universe, like, looking at the fact that he burned all the heart-shaped herbs, that could have potentially saved T'Challa in universe. And now and so, like, the damage that Killmonger did with that is still done. It doesn't really undermine what he did. I mean, it's still the damage is all still there, just like everybody. I mean, I guess you could say some people are recovering faster than others from the snap, considering they made an ice cream cone shop in Thor: Love and Thunder. But
Jesus Christ! Yeah.
but still, the damage was very well, and even the fact that, how we talked about just a little bit ago, that they were planning on making the original idea for Black Panther 2, if Chadwick hadn't passed, was going to be him struggling with the loss of time. So many people lost things from the snap. So it's the same type of discussion. It just doesn't. People are dumb.
Well, yes, and even what you said of the effect that Killmonger had was still so significant. Just think about how at the beginning of this movie, the whole reason why like the United States is now willing to like mine for vibranium and feel more confident against Wakanda is because their protector is gone. If they still had the heart-shaped herb, things would be different. So there's a lot of things, like Namor might not have emerged from his nation. Like, this whole movie would have been different had that not happened. So I think it's totally correct. And honestly, maybe that even makes Killmonger a better villain, because without him, we wouldn't have Namor.
Dude, Ben's spitting today, dude. I'm liking Ben. Ben's spitting today. That's crazy.
Charlie's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Charlie, take everything back. What was I was gonna say?
That's wild.
Yeah, and that's why I say that this is one of the most impressive MCU movies, because with Ryan Coogler dealing with what happened to everything about this production, like, there's a lot that could have easily been worse than what we got, like very easily been worse than what we got. And so the fact that he was able to write around it and give us a great movie is very impressive, in my opinion. I do want to bring up two things also. So M'Baku, the end of the movie, says he's there to challenge anyone for the role of King of Wakanda. We're led to assume that he's at least going to take place until T'Challa's kid is ready to be Black Panther. Yes or no?
Yeah, unless somebody
Yeah.
challenges him, I think.
Okay,
But
because
it didn't look like anybody was going to. So
yeah, I was kind of settled on either he's gonna be Black Panther for the time being, or he's at least gonna be the King of Wakanda and be its like protector, um, for there on out. So I just wanted to see what
I
y'all
think
think.
so.
Imagine just Mbaku just goes into the UN convention with his carrot again.
I can imagine him in his Black Panther suit.
Yeah, just all buff and ripped. Um, and then
So-
yes, oh what?
sorry, I just want to speaking about T'Challa's son.
That's what. Yeah.
So we're expecting some kind of time jump then, right? For the
Well,
MCU.
so that's and yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So I'm assuming he's what, like about 5 or 6, maybe
Yeah.
7 years old. Like 5 is good because of the blip. Um, 7 years old maybe, and then once he gets to like I don't know, maybe 10 years from now, like Secret Wars, maybe King Dynasty, whatever they want to do, have him at the right enough age at like a 17, 18, like young Black Panther taking on the mantle in his father's footsteps, like all the pressure on him. But I'm assuming that's basically the next Black Panther, and that's basically like kind of recasting T'Challa without
Yeah, but it's
recasting
not
T'Challa.
recast. Yeah.
And honestly, just give me James David Washington, John David Washington, and I'm good. So
I think I dis-
sorry,
I think I disagree with that, Aiden.
would disagree with what?
Kick Ben out.
What? Whoa. You say kick me out, but then I give you my reasons and you say that I'm catching belly.
Yeah.
What do you disagree with?
I disagree that there's necessarily going to be a time jump. I think there could be. I disagree that they're going to utilize him so quickly within the MCU. I think that M'Baku probably is going to take up the mantle of Black Panther, and I see him being a significant character for the rest of the saga and for some of the future projects. But let's say in phase 7 or whatever, after the multiverse saga, they decide to do like a Young Avengers movie or something like that. I see him kind of like more so growing up in a further period of time in the MCU. Like I don't see him being utilized. I honestly don't see him being utilized into like King Dynasty or Secret Wars or anything like that. I don't think we're going to see the fulfillment of that so soon in the MCU. That feels too soon in my mind. So I would disagree that that's the approach that they're going with, but I don't know what they're actually going to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree. It's just there's so much because like you got Wanda's kids too, which granted right now aren't real, but eventually I'm sure they are going to be. And so they're very visibly setting up this young Avengers lineup, and some of them are very, very young. So I just wonder why they're setting it up now if they're not going to use them soon. I just would imagine there's going to be some type of time jump.
Yeah. I mean, because then Kate Bishop's going to be like almost a whole 20 years older than, Wiccan and Speed, unless they age Wiccan and Speed up super quick, I mean, Elijah Bradley, America Chavez, like, yeah, that's all fine. But then you got, baby Black Panther, who's 5 years old right now. Like, it's kind of, I don't know. I honestly, and that's all that to say that I have no idea what is going on with the Young Avengers right now, how they're going to be utilized, when we'll see them show up. Like, I honestly have no idea. So that's not rebutting anything. That's just straight up being like, I really don't know.
I need to say something regarding Young Black Panther because I was talking to John about it, and he says that he wished that they would have handed him like the Black Panther helmet at the end of the movie. And when you're talking with a group of friends about movies and everything, people just start ratting off jokes and stuff. So people started saying like, yeah, they should give him the powers as a little kid. Imagine a mini Black Panther with Black Panther powers just running around beating up everybody, which is it's a cool thought. It's kind of terrifying to think of a little Black Panther with the same strength and everything. But I thought that was hilarious.
A little 5-year-old menace just wreaking havoc. Doesn't know what to do with his powers or nothing. Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, handing him the helmet, I feel like that's a little bit too on the nose. Yeah, very much on the nose then, Ben. But yeah, those were a couple things like some of the last bits and pieces of um what do you call it, M'Baku, like taking up the
Mhm.
role at the end, and then obviously the post-credit scene. um Anything
I want to
else?
I want to say one more thing regarding just the post credit scene.
Hmm.
Um, this is the first Marvel movie I can remember in a long time to only have one post credit scene. Most of them nowadays, they typically have one that's more of a setup, and then they have usually a second one that's more of a joke. And I think that the choice to just do one and have it leave off on an emotional moment was just like a great choice for the film. I'm glad that they were willing to be different with it and not feel like forced into anything. So I just want to say, like, it was a longer post credit scene than usual, and it fit the movie perfectly. And I'm glad that they only included one and didn't feel the need to, include a second one and force a cameo. Shout out to the
Yeah.
people who wishes that happened.
Oh.
But yeah, just in my opinion, I think just the one post credit scene, having it leave off on an emotional moment, was a good difference to have compared to the other Marvel films. Aiden, why are you laughing?
I still can't get over you being like, well, I wish I would have heard the Rihanna song at the end of the credits. Oh, that was very funny.
It's crazy.
Anything else from the movie
I got
we're missing?
I got two more things. One's a question, but would you consider, obviously in the film, a lot of people are saying Namor is the villain of the movie, and but I don't know. I was just contemplating. Would you count him as an anti-hero in aspects, because he's not bad. He was bad because one of his clan got killed and people in his territory.
So, I mean, I'm in between, because what a part of me wants to say anti-hero because, like, his intentions are good. It's just like we said, his intentions are good. It's just about how he goes about those
Mhm.
intentions. But then the other part of me is like, I mean, he killed Queen Ramonda and he completely
Yeah, true.
flooded Wakanda, like
Mhm.
causing who knows how much more deaths. So I don't know. That's a tough one for me.
Yeah.
I think he's the villain. I think it's one of those things where we understand his motivation and his intention, and we can understand where he's coming from. But like we said about him and Killmonger, he just can take it to the extreme, and that's where it kind of crosses that line between like reasonable and understanding and villain. So I would say he was the villain, but
Mhm.
it's still a villain that like you care about and you understand that like if things were just slightly different and if things could have worked out a little bit differently, that he really wouldn't be that bad.
Okay. Yeah. I got a hot take. Just a really hot one. So I know Ben's phase 4 ranking, including TV shows and movies. Um, after watching the second viewing of Black Panther, I'm just gonna say it. Yeah, you can be shocked if you want to. As a movie, actually no. As a plot, yeah, as a plot, forget hype, forget this plot, because I know you guys are gonna look at.
Yeah.
I think Black Panther is the best film as a plot. As in, I think, in my opinion, it's above No Way Home and Shang-Chi.
Mm.
It's hard. I know that for Charlie, Aiden, and I, we definitely disagree on the shows in comparison, but I think when it
Yeah.
comes to movies, I think we still have it the same. I
Well,
might be wrong
no,
about.
because it's so I think our top three is all about the same. It's this fool right here in Doctor Strange that gets me confused. I just don't know where his ranking of Doctor Strange is.
Wait,
What?
That's strange.
Charlie.
Charlie, Charlie.
He
please.
loves Doctor Strange.
I've made it very clear that I love Doctor Strange.
What's your top 3 Phase 4 Marvel movies?
I would probably put Spider-Man at 1.
Okay.
This at number 2.
Oh wow, okay. Don't.
Oh no. Oh no.
Shang-Chi's number 3, but Doctor Strange is a very close fourth.
Oh,
Very
you
close fourth.
I was like,
almost just
dog.
lost me. Oh my
I was like, don't
goodness.
do it. Okay, so I mean, okay, so then Phase 4 movies. I think we're just mixed on the second and third. I mean, I got like No Way Home, Shang-Chi, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Doctor Strange, Thor, Eternals, Black Widow, right? Or Black Widow and Eternals, right?
Yeah.
That's about all the movies. Yeah. So
You have
yeah,
Eternals
about the
under
same.
Black Widow?
No. Oh yeah. I like Black Widow more as a film.
Hey, Charlie, I'm adding a
That's
W for you. That's a
Dude,
W
a
for you.
spy thriller. Like
Dude.
it was
It's
way
the most
over.
boring film. Dude,
Eternals is the most boring
you
film.
got me
What are you
tripping,
talking
dude.
about?
Eternal. I go back in my TikTok, bro. I did literally a video on every single character of that movie and why I'm trying not to cuss. Why they are so good. Why they are so well written and rounded. And the plot has its boring times, sure, but everything about it is like, you got me tripping, man. You got me absolutely tilted right now. That's crazy.
I mean, dog. It's a spy thriller, bro. Action.
There's no draw to Black Widow besides Yelena. No draw.
Nah, L. I mean, that's
Why are we no?
that's
Okay.
an L, dude.
For
Bro,
one.
Eternals, I mean, dude, you're juggling all these characters so
No,
much so
80.
that you can't even give some of them the development that they need. All for
Like
it to
who?
just turn on
Like
its
who?
head.
Like
And,
who?
dude,
Who didn't
there's
get developed?
So much characters.
Who didn't get developed?
There's
Who
so
didn't
much
get developed?
characters. There's so much characters that I just didn't give a fuck about, bro. Sprite.
Okay, Sprite. That's it. That's all you got. Sprite.
Cersei was so boring.
You didn't care about Cersei?
She had no personality.
Dude, you didn't watch the movie.
She
if you
had
didn't care
no
about Cersei.
personality.
Nah,
She was bland. She was
Nah,
bland. She was so bland.
Nah,
I did not care about her. I did not care about Sprite. I did not care about Sprite stabbing her in the back.
Nobody cares about
she's
Sprite.
Obsessed with Icarus, who turns
Nobody
out to
cares
be the
about
villain.
Sprite.
I didn't care about Ajax. She was boring.
That's okay. Ajax and Sprite. I'll give you that.
That's already 3 out of what? Like
no,
6,
I'm not
7?
giving you Cersei. I'm giving you 2. I'm giving you Ajax and Sprite.
I'm giving myself Cersei because
Dude,
she was
you're wrong about
bland.
Cersei. How is she bland? She's faced with the choice to let the world die that she has since watched over for
she's like this the whole time.
Years.
Oh, she's just bland. She has no personality.
Oh,
she has no personality. Why would I want to watch a 2.5-hour movie about someone trying to juggle all these character development, all the character? I have a villain that flip flops at the end, or just like a nice little spy thriller that can get in, get out.
So
Dude,
hold on. A twist is a flip flop now. So what? You look at
it
something.
Wasn't a good twist.
Oh my!
It wasn't
God.
a good twist.
Oh
so yes,
my
it's a flip flop.
How is it not a good twist? How is it not?
Because I don't care about Icarus. I don't care about him wanting to secretly blow up the world. We know he's not going to do it. No tension at all. We know he's not going to blow up the world. I don't.
Why do you
care.
think he's not going to do that? Hold on. What's the draw to you thinking he's not
Oh,
going to do that?
okay. Let's see. Because we still have No Way Home. We still have Hawkeye after. We still have Black Panther coming out next.
Existential things. That's existential stuff.
What
in the plot of the movie, in universe, why do you think he's not going to do that?
No, I think he will. I don't think it's going to happen though. Because why would they? Why would they? There's no tension there. I don't really care.
Dude, he literally went against the people he grew up with. Not grew up with, but the people he spent thousands of years with. Like, that's how much he believed in that cause. Like, that has to tell you something. Like, everybody else on that team, besides Kingo, is sitting there telling you, like, bro, what are you doing? Like, we got to think about this. And besides Sprite, I guess, because Sprite just has a huge woman, like, hard on for him. But everybody else is telling him that he's wrong. And he's sitting there like, nah, we got to do this. This is what we were meant to do. Like, that has to tell you something. People, the person he loves, he's going against. Dog, you got me tripping. You got me tripping.
I mean,
what does Black Widow have as to nuance? Oh my God, this guy held me captive for years and my sister, and now we're taking him down. Yippee fucking doo-dah.
It's a nice little spy thriller. Yelena gets out of this trance she's been in for over years and years and years, gets back with Black Widow. They bust the Red Guardian out of jail. They find out that the mom has been secretly pulling these strings, and they got to take him down.
So is that a twist? That's a twist then, but this one's just a flip flop.
I didn't say it was. I mean, no, because the villain has been I think his name was Dracoff. The villain had been Dracoff the whole entire time.
And the villain had been the deviants the whole time.
And then Lord of the Rings. Yeah, the villains were the deviants the whole time, and then out of nowhere, it's like, no, we gotta make Icarus the villain and show that they were robots the whole time, and it's just like, I don't know, there's no grasp towards it, and I don't care about Icarus enough to care about the twist because you're juggling all these characters. Given a 6-episode show, I think Eternals would have been amazing. They would have been phenomenal. They would have been so interesting to sit with and build with as characters. I'm talking about if you have a spy thriller about Black Widow just kicking some ass, the Red Guardian putting on, like, some jokes, Yelena, with her charisma just going crazy, all of them, just this nice little spy thriller where we get in and we get out. I think it's fine, and I'd rather watch that than sit through the Eternals, a 2.5-hour movie with characters that don't get developed enough. And like, they're good characters. Like, I cried when I forget her name, but Angelina Jolie's character died, or when Gilgamesh dies, and Angelina Jolie character has to sit with that. Like, I cried a little bit, but imagine how much more good moments there would have been. Like Ajax, didn't care. Like, and then, like I said, Icarus with the twist, I didn't care. Whenever Sprite went against Cersei, I didn't care because I just, like, I couldn't sit with these characters long enough to care. So, and you see, and I don't know. I mean, Makari is still one of my favorite superheroes in the MCU. Oh my god, she is crazy fast. I think she's goated. I think Fastos was great as well. Overall, though, I mean, it's just like there's not a lot to really, like, grasp me. Like, yes, Black Widow is just a fastball straight down the middle. Great, like, but I can appreciate that for what it is and get in, get out. Tell the story you need to and move on.
I disagree just because, like I said, I did a video for each character and I went through the nuances of each and every one of them. And Fastos was perfect, like you said. Like, he had the well, you didn't mention this, but that the World War II stuff and them dropping the bombs, and like, that was profound. That was like, wow, I helped these people make these weapons of mass destruction. This is what they use them for.
Yeah.
And then you got people like Druig, who literally defected from his one job on this planet because he wanted to help us help ourselves. By, I mean, granted, it was tyrannical, he's controlling us, but like, he still stopped the one mission he was literally born for, to help us. And him himself, who is not even a human, he saw himself above us, but he still took away his life purpose, quote unquote. And then you look at even, like I mentioned, Cersei, she grew up with this planet. They show her humanity at the very beginning of the movie, handing this kid this knife for no reason, making it like, or handing the kid back his knife, this new knife now. And she just, like, and she's a teacher. She's a teacher. Before they go out, before they go out and try to save the world, she's a teacher, arguably one of the most thankless jobs in the world, because she just wants to help humanity. And like, I could go on and on and on about all these different characters. I think they gave us the time with these characters, and the way that we could not develop with them, but the way that we could watch them develop and connect with them. But just, maybe it was rushed. I don't know, but I don't know. I loved it.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's all perfect. That's all beautiful. I need more of that, and I need more of that, especially when you have all these characters that are, that good. Like, granted, I don't care about Sprite, Cersei. I'm just kind of like, I don't see the craze around her. And I forgot the other one I said that I really just didn't care about. I forget the other one, but the ones that I did care about, Fastos, I thought Angelina Jolie's character, what she dealt with, was cool as well. Who else? I thought Makari was cool. I thought Druig, everything about Druig, how he helped us out when he didn't need to, or whenever he went against his one rule because he didn't want to see us going at it. All that's cool. Just give me more of that. I want more of that, and I want to care more about these characters than what was given to us. And again, that's not the fault of the movie. It's just the fault of, you have all these characters and we don't have enough time to grow with them and to develop with them. I can't see what Ben's saying right there.
I mean, number of Charlie W's, and there's a big ass number right there.
I don't care. Anyways, Black Widow, I can appreciate how we just get in, get out. The plot, the story. It's this, Natasha breaking all of these girls out of this, like, horrible ritual and horrible this horrible ritual, this horrible like thing that she has to go through, that all of these other girls have to go through, breaking them out of that with the help of her family, who you can who she finds out was like a lie the whole time. Yelena finds out. It brings a divide between them two. They have to learn how to work through it to conquer this thing. I don't know. It's just a straight fastball down the middle spy thriller. I thought it was great. I didn't think it was great, but I can appreciate it more than Eternals. If you said, what would you rather watch, Eternals or Black Widow? I'm watching Black Widow. I'm not even paying attention to them right now.
Ben just caught a W right there. That was crazy.
I don't know. So that's me. I mean, I'm taking Black
I don't know.
Widow.
I would argue that because what you just said, finding out that the family was a lie the whole time. That's the same thing with finding out that their purpose on this planet was to help it die, essentially.
I mean,
that's the same thing.
Even that, I don't care. Like, oh, y'all are a bunch of robots. Cool. I don't care, bro. Like, it does nothing for me.
Then why did the family thing work for you with Black Widow? She's already dead. Like, what does it matter?
I think, look, Yelena and Natasha never had a fan. Natasha goes on so much about
91% audience score.
That's actually crazy.
That's crazy.
Natasha never had a family. Always talking about how she wants a family. She finally finds this family. Her and Yelena finally bond. They, have this dinner with her family. All that just to find out it's not real and that it never meant anything. Like that does more for me than finding out that 6, 7 of these characters that we've speed ran through development on are all robots. It's just like, I don't know, like there's more of a human connection. There's more of a like, sentiment towards, Black Widow's family aspect than there is to the Eternals being robots the whole time. Like, yes, there is something there about, we've been put on this earth just to help it die. Let's fix it. And then Icarus is like, no, we need to help it die. It's like, I don't know. I just feel like there's more of an attachment in the family aspect on Black Widow. It's just more of just like an action movie you can get in, get out. Whereas Eternals has to juggle a lot, has to do a lot in 2.5 hours, and even then still doesn't get a lot of its stuff done. Like, granted, there are some things to like about it, and I did like Eternals whenever I first watched it. I thought it was way overhated on, and even now I still do think it's overhated on. Just because it's grouped in with all the other great movies in Phase 4 doesn't mean it's like, and it has to be at the bottom of the list, doesn't mean it's horrible. I mean, in my opinion, being at the bottom of the list, I mean, doesn't mean it's horrible, but it's not good.
Okay, that's I would my last thing I'll say is I would argue that when you think that you're this sentient being with a soul this entire time, not that you're human, but when you think that you're alive and you think you have something to represent, and then when that is ripped away from you and you're shown that you were created and you're not actually a living being, like that's got to be.
I mean, you play Detroit Become Human, right?
I haven't.
You haven't? Okay. Well, I mean, granted, it's a video game. You spend more time with it, but it's basically like androids discovering that they have feelings and having to fight against it. I think that is done beautiful. It's like kind of the same concept, and it's done beautifully. It makes me feel every single time I watch playthroughs of it. Every single time I play it. Whereas in 2.5 hours, you get that from the Eternals. It just, I mean, I don't know, dude. It just, if this was centered around like maybe half of them, I think that would have been fine. Even if this was a 6-episode Disney Plus series, I think it would have been perfect. I think it would have been amazing. Keep Chloe Zhao on it and keep the same concept. Just spread it out a bit more over 6 episodes, and I think it's great. It's not the fault of the movie. It's just the fault of how much she had to do with the little amount of time that she got. And with Black Widow, it's just straightforward. I can show that to a 5-year-old and they'd be able to grasp what the concept is. I can't show a 5-year-old the Eternals and be like, do you see why this is that powerful? They'd be like, what? No. So, that's why it's just like,
fair.
I don't know. That's just where I'm coming from.
That's probably fair. That last part, I could agree.
Yeah. Anyways, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, guys. Man, me and Charlie haven't got in. I don't think me and Charlie have ever gotten into it.
That was a long time as well. I just want to say that for the people who get to the pleasure of viewing this, they are in for an experience. Anybody who's just listening on audio, you need to go back and just watch everything that's been happening for the last like 10 or 15 minutes.
I mean,
these two were a bunch of little dorks the whole time.
What?
Other than Ben, you know, Ben was doing it right.
we brought the entertainment.
Mimish out here supporting Black Widow. It's an L, but you know, we just talked about that.
I literally found this in my trash. Like, what do you want me to say? This came down from the heavens.
Oh my god! Okay, get out of here with that. I don't know. I mean, yeah, me and Charlie have never gotten into it. That was great. That was great, dude. That was fun.
I like that.
Oh my gosh! All right, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. That is our review. That is our reaction. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Ben, Mimish, Charlie, you're always here. Always a pleasure having you. You know that. It's always a pleasure having you go. But Ben and Mimish, thank y'all so much for taking time out of y'all's day to join, talk about this, amazing movie. It was a blast. Where can we find more of y'all at?
Mimish, go first.
Okay, so NLE Mimish for NLE Chopper. On all socials, on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. But I mainly post on TikTok.
Okay.
I'm found everywhere. I'm everywhere. Occasional cameo from Words from the Nerds podcast. What do you, Charlie?
What happened to Mimish? Is he
oh no!
He brought in the sun, and then
I don't know. I was like, I didn't think he was done talking yet.
I thought he was. Maybe it's just because he cut off.
Yeah,
he's definitely gone now.
You could find me at.
Brought the sun.
He
That's
brought
Namor for real. Brought the
there
sun
he
to
is.
Oh, he's back.
Sorry, man. I was Icarus.
He literally got the sun. Oh my god, that's legendary.
All right, Ben.
Yeah, Aspire Entertainment on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere. Yeah, you can find me there, and you can find me here once Aiden and Charlie invite me on.
Be quiet.
Every
Every single time we're like, Ben, you want to
It's
join?
No, I'm busy today.
I'm always like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it. And then Aiden's like, got to take on my dog. Let me make some food. Let me restart my PC. 3 hours later. Yeah.
I guess Ben is just the busiest person on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I am.
Hanging out with friends tonight. Sorry.
Busy watching Eternals peak.
Anyways.
One day, bro. Everybody's gonna love it. And I was here the whole time.
Yeah,
just
maybe.
saying. Yeah. Watch when Eternals 2 comes out. All the love's gonna be there this week.
Hey, and I'll be there Thursday night, ready to watch it. So we'll see. This has been Words from the Nerds podcast, episode 34. I forgot to mention that. Episode 34. We're kind of going on a long break here up until February. So expect maybe it's a Thor Love and Thunder episode. I know me and Charlie never got to sit down and talk about that one. So we can revisit that, just be like revisiting Thor Love and Thunder. We can even talk about other Marvel movies. We can prep for Ant-Man Quantumania. Whatever it is, we will be here. Be on the lookout, subscribe, like, comment. NLE, hope you still comment even though you're on this one. Boys always showing love.
I'll be the first one.
All right, but Charlie, you want to tell them where they can find you?
Yeah. I am It's Cubson on everything. Actually, maybe except for Twitter. You can follow me on TikTok at It's Cubson. My YouTube here soon, as soon as they introduce the handles, is gonna be It's Cubson, but right now it's just Cubson. And you can follow me on Twitter at Cubson_. Yeah, we trying to push out more content. We gotta, like Aiden said, we're gonna have a big dry spell coming up. So we got Guardian special in 10 days, so that should be good.
Yeah. So we can talk about that too.
Yeah, and then after that we'll be
Werewolf by Night. Just catch up on all the stuff we missed.
Yeah, and then after that we'll be riding the wave until Ant-Man. Or actually, we're gonna do Last of Us as well. So Last of Us starts in January.
Oh yeah.
So I want to have Ben in on one of those episodes too. Well, actually, because I don't think Ben, it's going to be Ben's first time experiencing the story, so I kind of want to have Ben in as much as we can on that one too, if Ben is down. But,
Charlie,
Yeah,
if I
we
really
definitely
like
can.
the show, I want to play the game.
oh, okay,
Okay, that'll be
I
a
like
nice
it.
That is
Yeah.
like a serious, like I'm for real about that.
Okay, like how much would you have to like the show though? Like, would you have to love it? Like compared to an MCU show, would it have to be better than any of the MCU shows have been?
Not
Or
necessarily.
could it be like Loki level for you?
Sure.
Okay.
What about Falcon?
I love
Oh.
Falcon. They don't,
Yeah.
they don't like Falcon. I
Well,
love
I'm gonna rewatch it. We could even revisit
I'm
that
gonna
because I've been
rewatch it.
planning on rewatching it and kind of sitting
Okay.
down.
I'm
Yeah.
down to do that.
So yeah, be on the lookout for all of that. The Last of Us coming up here soon. Revisiting some old MCU movies. Just keep a lookout on this channel. Everything is in the link tree in the bio. Please, everybody, anybody listening, go follow my letterboxd. Go like my reviews. Please give me some validation. My Twitter's in there as well. Everything you can find down there. If you're listening on audio, please rate, drop a review. It pushes out the podcast. If you're watching on video, keep watching. Either way, thank you for the support. That has been our review. I will see you in the next one. Peace.
Adios.
Peace.
Oh,
Ben, no.
man, come on, man.
Oh,
You had one job.
What was my
One
job?
sayonara.
Sayonara.
Nah, you gotta switch it up. Can't let him know. you're not
No,
straight.
he's trying to
Oh,
backtrack
my
now. He knows.
What?